Rev up your engines!
Marlo M. says, Scotty Kilmer is a Toyota marketing director disguised as a YouTuber. Oh yeah, Toyota's mad at me because I tell the truth about their cars. I tell them not to buy a turbo Tundra because the turbos, I thought they're going to have problems. They're having problems with them. I honestly tell stuff. They still make the best cars out for the money. There's no arguing that. My grandson just came here to visit Rhode Island. He's got my son's original '07 Camry. It's got the heck beat out of it, but it still runs exactly like it did when it was new. They make good vehicles. They make better than most of them out there, but they're not paying me anything. They're not even giving me cars to analyze because everyone's afraid Scotty's going to tell the truth about stuff, so they're not going to give me cars. So I use actual customers' cars to show, and the people that are mad, they want to show it's a bad car so other people don't get ripped off, and the people that are happy with the car, they want to show a car they're happy with so other people can say, hey, well, that guy's pretty happy with that car. Here's what he did with it. Here's what happened. Maybe I'll get one. I'm showing the truth out here, and I'm not a Toyota marketer by any stretch of the imagination. They never gave me anything. I bought my own Toyotas and Lexus. I didn't get them free. I paid for them because I'm a mechanic. Mechanics don't want to spend time working on their own car, so you buy a car that doesn't break down if you're a mechanic. Well, here we go here with Tesla, great quality. A man in Vancouver bought one 6 months ago. It started on fire while he was driving it, and he couldn't get out, so he had to kick the window out to climb out of the car to save himself. Now, this was in Vancouver. 6-month-old Tesla started on fire. He had to kick the window out and get out. There's just not quality in these machines. And this wasn't like it started on fire when nobody was in it. It was just sitting there, right? The guy was driving the thing. They just don't have the quality. These people get suckered into, oh, the future electric cars, oh, they're so great. No, they aren't. And this is the tip of the iceberg. There's not that many of them out there. Well, there's a whole bunch of them, and they all start catching on fire. Or they start having problems where the computer's not right, so the car isn't set park right, and then it just rolls away. Another Tesla starts on fire. A 6-month-old where the guy had to kick his way out. This is what people don't understand. Everything in those stupid things is run by computers and electronics, right? You get a normal car. The car starts on fire. You open the door and get out. Well, these have electric door openers in them. And when the fire started, the electricity stopped working. The windows wouldn't roll down. The doors wouldn't open. He had to kick his way out. This is modern tech. We don't worry about door handles, something like that. We'll have an electronic. Now, when it doesn't work, well, you got to kick your way out of the thing. The YouTuber, and he says, Scotty, if one shock absorber needs changing, is it wise to change all four in case another one wears out? I would change them in pairs because you want to have cornering and stuff even, and they work in pairs. In most cars, say the front wheel drive, the engine tranny's in the front, the weight's in the front struts will generally wear out long before the back ones. So why change them if you don't need them? If you carry a lot of weight in the back and the trunk, say you're a musician or something, you might have to change the back ones first. But change them in pairs. It doesn't cost any more to do them later. So if you do the two front ones and then later you do the back ones, go ahead. It's not like you got it all taken apart. You're doing the front or you're doing the back. You don't have uneven corner, a new one and an old one, or the factory one that's old and a new one that's a different brand that's going to dampen different. You want to keep them even. Knack51 says, Scotty, I'm having a scraping sound as my wheels turn in my 2012 Honda Accord. Do you think it's the dust shield or my caliper or warped rotor? Well, it's easy to do. All you got to do is jack it up, take the wheel off. The dust shield is on the inside. And if you hit something and it bends, you'll see it's scraping. It should have clearance the whole way around. Get a long screwdriver, stick it in there, and bend it back. It's simple to fix, right? You do want to look at your brake pads because if they're getting thin and you're starting to hit the metal, change them now. Then you won't have to buy rotors because you haven't gouged them with raw metal yet. Now, if it's your rotors, say it's all clean and the pads are still thick, when you're hearing the noise, yeah, that would mean that your rotors are warped, and sometimes it hits them, sometimes it doesn't. You'd have to replace the rotors and the pads because the pads will be worn to the warped rotors. So unless you're really cheap and want to get the brake pads off and then put them on sandpaper and sand them around for a while to make them perfectly flat, you can just buy new pads when you change the rotors. Gregory Neckhoff says, how can you prevent water from getting to your fuel injectors? Well, buy good gasoline. You buy cheap stuff that's got water in it, yeah, you're going to have problems. It's going to ruin everything. If you got a diesel vehicle, unfortunately, diesel fuel absorbs water more than gasoline. Then you get a diesel water separator before the fuel injectors, and they have a bowl that collects the water, and the really good ones have a sensor, so when it starts to get full, the sensor turns a light on and says drain the water out, and then you drain drain the water out. Now, of course, you can do that with a gasoline car, too. You can get a filter that's got a water trap that'll catch the water. Normally, you're not really going to get any water in. And especially today, alcohol absorbs water. If you got gasoline that had a little water, the ethanol in the gasoline will absorb it. You won't have any problem. When I was a kid, people had crappy underground gas tanks at gas stations. They were metal, and then they would get electrolysis from being in the ground, and then they would rust, and then groundwater would get inside, and they'd pump water out, and you'd have a real problem with it. Well, what they sold then was called dry gas, and when you poured it in a tank, that would absorb the water that got in your gas tank, and so it would burn it because it mixed it up. Normally you don't have to worry about it, but if you live in some area with crappy gas, you might get a water separator filter put on your vehicle. You really have to if you have a diesel. Peyton Kelly says, Scotty, is a 90s MX-5 a reliable car? I'm considering getting one instead of a truck because of gas prices. They're old as the hills now. You're talking about at least 28, 29, 30-year-old car. It's an old car, but they were well made. You can get them relatively cheap, but I'll give you one advice. If you're going to buy a Mazda Miata, especially an old one, get a standard transmission. If you don't know how to drive one, learn. It's easy to do. I even have a video in a Miata showing people how to drive standard transmission cars you can watch on YouTube. Do not get the automatic. The old automatics were piles of crap. Every customer I had in Texas over the years, they had an old 90s automatics. The automatic transmissions went out. They cost a fortune to fix. Mazda automatic transmissions weren't that good back in the day, but their standards are pretty bulletproof. So get a standard transmission one, and it could be a good car. They're well made. They're not really fast or anything, but they get good gas mileage, and if you take care of them, parts are still available. You can fix them. It's a good choice if it was taken care of. Mind of Ethan says, I got an '08 Volvo XC90. It makes a clunk when I shift cold into reverse. The drive shafts and the joints on them. If they're worn, when you put it in, it'll clunk. Find where the clunk is coming from. It could be the drive shafts or the joints. I have a video finding the source of car noises, Scotty. Watch it on YouTube. You can see these listening devices. You can buy them online yourself. Chinese make them for like $85. You get 6 sensors or more, and you put them in different parts of the car, wear headphones, and have a control unit that goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And when you hear the loudest noise, you know that's where the noise is coming in. Pray it's one of the joints in the drive shaft going out, because if not, put the sound machines on your transmission. And if the noise is coming from inside the transmission, it means the transmission is worn internally, and basically live with it. It costs a fortune to rebuild a Volvo automatic transmission, but they can last a long time. And I had a customer with one, he went years that way, and he would just park where he normally didn't have to back up. 5 years later, it was still clunking, but it was still going down the road. Rebuilding them, big money. I wouldn't go that far, but maybe it's one of your drive shaft joints. So like I say, you can test it with one of those machines to see if that's where it's coming from. Alexander Vogadius says, Scotty, do I need to break in my new motorcycle? Modern motorcycles are pretty well made. Back in the day, when I was a kid in the 60s, motorcycles had to be broken in. The metallurgy wasn't as good. You couldn't race them right away, otherwise they'd break. You got to wear them in slowly. Modern motorcycles are completely different. Everything's aluminum alloy, computer fuel injection. They really don't need breaking in. Now, that said, I wouldn't buy a new motorcycle and go 180 miles an hour right off the bat. I would at least spend 200 or 300 miles of driving it normal, not going over 70 or 80, and just having fun with it, and then flail it after. Now, if you're talking Japanese motorcycles especially, they're so well built, you can generally just thrash the heck out of them and they can take it. They're so well built. Cast iron stuff, I would break it in. I wouldn't push it till it had at least 1,000 miles on it. But most of them, the Japanese ones, they really don't need much breaking in at all. Benny in a Jet says, Scotty, love your content. I'm considering a Toyota MR2 as a weekend toy. Which generation would you recommend? I'm torn between first and third. Second is nice, but seemed overpriced. I would go third generation then. And it's a good idea. See, you want it as a toy. They were an oddball car for Toyota. They don't make them anymore. They're a unique vehicle if you want to get one. It's just they were never that popular. And so maybe you can get a good price on one. Keep it as a weekend toy, because it's going to be old, and any old car, things are going to break on it. And, once cars get to be over 20, 25 years old, they can still be dependable. They're Toyotas, but stuff is going to eventually break just from age, especially if you live like where I am now in Rhode Island up north. Rust gets to it, ball joints will break off, control arms will break off, things will rust, and you can't stop rust. And now Retro says, Scotty, I just bought an 87 Vanagon GL, 255,000 kilometers and redone automatic training. How long does the engine last for? I have to swap it for a Subaru. Well, it depends how it was taken care of. Those are Vanagons. They're not particularly high horsepower. If guys drove them hard, they're going to wear the engine out faster. If you want to see how long that engine will last, here's what I'd advise doing. Do a wet and dry compression test. First, just dry, take the plugs out, see what the compression is. Put a teaspoon of oil in each cylinder one at a time and then do a wet compression. If the results are pretty close, the engine's in really good shape. If the dry is 1 and the wet is way higher, it means the rings are worn and it's going to wear out sooner than later. That's the best test you could do on one of those to see how much life you have in them. It all depends on the previous drivers, and it's an 87. Who knows what the previous drivers did or how many of them there were? Something that old. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.